HTML code is used pretty much on any web page that you would look at online. It's going to be a combination of HTML and some other technology like PHP or ASP or something like that. Now, with applications like WordPress, a lot of the HTML is written for you. So it's written behind the scenes when you type text into a post or a page, or if you upload an image, for example, then that image is going to be embedded on your site through HTML, but you generally don't have to write the HTML. Now, when you get to a more intermediate stage of development, such as with WordPress, then you are going to want to include HTML of your own in some of your pages. Now, in WordPress, you have two views. You've got a visual view when you're putting together a post, and you've got a HTML view. Now, the visual view is much like working in Microsoft Word or something like that. It has a user interface that allows you to change things with the text or change things with images and that kind of a thing. But as you will find, then, as I say, when you get to the more advanced stages, you're going to want to pop in here a little bit more. So, just for an example, if I was to upload an image from, let's say, just select a file from my operating system here. Just bear with me. And save that file and insert it into the post. You'll see that the image pops up here, but if I go to my HTML window here, you'll see that it has written a line of code, a line of HTML, and you may not need to go near this line of code ever, or you may. Now, the main window here where you put in the content to your posts and pages is one place where you'll be putting HTML, but there are other places that you're going to want to include HTML where you will be required to write it manually yourself. One example would be on something like just bear with me now while it loads, on a sidebar. So this sidebar here contains a number of links. One link is to subscribe to a podcast, another embeds a piece of YouTube video, and then another one embeds a Twitter feed. Now, these are all going to require you to use what's called a widget, and that widget that is going to be used here is called the text widget. And the text widget is just a box that contains text, but that text can be raw text or HTML code. So this is where you're going to need to know a little bit about HTML, but not a massive amount. So what does HTML look like, and what does HTML do? Well, HTML is simply code that you put in a HTML document so that it can present content on screen. So HTML basically is wrapped around content in the form of tags, these little angle brackets with text inside them, and whatever they enclose is going to be presented on screen in a particular way. Now, if you look at this block of code here, this is the essential block of code for a HTML a HTML file. Now, you'll see here that it's got a couple of lines here: doc type, HTML head, title, and then body. Now, in a regular HTML file, the body tag or body tags would enclose all of the content for a web page. Now, you might ask yourself, well, why doesn't my post contain any of this code? Well, when you're working in WordPress, you're going to be working visually for the most part, and HTML sometimes, but basically WordPress writes a lot of the HTML behind the scenes and doesn't give you access to it. You don't need to see certain elements of the HTML code, so it just doesn't make them visible. So you'll find that you're writing HTML code in here, but it doesn't necessarily look like the HTML structure that you see here. That's fine. Really, what you're concerned with in WordPress is what would appear within these two body tags. Now, as I say, HTML is just a way for content to be presented on screen, or this is also referred to as being rendered on screen. Now, let's have a look at some simple HTML code, and we're going to use it to embed an image manually into the HTML editor here. So I'm going to delete this code. Now, if I want some HTML code, and I'm going to to do something like create a link or embed some content into my page, I could go, I could memorize all of these different HTML tags and just try and, basically repeat them as necessary. But what I find is that a website like W3 Schools works as a kind of a library of HTML code that I can always access, and I can just do a quick search if I ever need to pull anything up. So if I put in image tag, I click search, it'll give me back first off the HTML image tag. And what this does is it gives you the code, and it also allows you to do a quick test to see for yourself how that code works. So you can see here I've got my HTML. This is really all I'm interested in. Remember that when I'm in WordPress, I only really care about what's inside the body tag, and I don't need to include that body tag. So image source, in this case the source is the URL of the image that's going to be presented on screen. Now here you'll see that it just has smiley.gif. Now this is the syntax or the URL that you could use if your HTML file was stored in the exact same place as the folder that contains this GIF file. You don't need to put in the full URL in that case. But if you're working in WordPress and you're hosting files in various places, then it makes a lot of sense to use the full URL. So it would start with HTTP and then so on and so forth. The entire URL of that file. And you've done this in your web hosting. Alt is just some words that will pop up on screen. If for some reason the image can't display, then the text will display instead. And this is also used by screen readers for people with visual impairment. And the width and the height, of course, is just the width and the height of the image. You can resize the image once you get it into your web page as well. Okay, so if I want to, I can just copy this code and go back into my edit post, into my HTML, and click on or paste that code in there. Now in this case I have an image, and I'm going to quickly search for that, or put the location of the image into my address bar to locate the file through its URL. There we go. Okay, so there's my image. The URL is good, so I can copy that and just go back in here now and replace the reference to the smiley.gif. I can put in some alt text here, new media production, and I'm going to remove those for the moment and just let it come in with its own normal size. So if I publish that, it should pop up there. Okay, and there we have it. So I've got my image has been embedded manually through the use of HTML code. Now, the last step here now is I'm going to take this a step further, and I'm going to copy this code. I'm going to go into my appearance section, into widgets, and I'm going to create a new text widget. So I'll just find the text widget, here it is. I'm going to pop it up there, right under my search bar, and I'm going to paste that code in there. So now image source, it's exact same code. All it's doing is it's embedding an image from this location. Click save, and go out to my web page and reload that by hitting Command or I can just do a reload up here and go to the home page where all my banners are, and you can see now that my image has popped in there nicely into my text widget, which gives me the facility now to put something in here like an ad or something that someone can click to go to a page within my site, or they can click to go elsewhere if I've got another service somewhere. Now the next step with this is to add a link to this image. So what I want to do is I want to be able to click on that image and link to go somewhere. So I'm going to put in a search here for image link. Should give me use an image as a link. Very handy, very user friendly. Create a link of an image. So now you'll see that rather than just having an image, now this image has a hyperlink on it. So the image is here, same tag as before. So again, this is the stuff that I brought in just to take the image in. But what you'll see is that because HTML wraps around things to present them on screen in a particular way, now there's an href tag with a closing a tag, which is wrapped around my image, which makes that into a link. And that link is going to go to wherever the href equals. So a, or the anchor tag, is going to be used to link to the hyperlink reference here, which is default.asp, and that is going to create that link on the image contained within those two a tags. So what I can do is I can just take that ahref, copy it, go back into my widget, I can paste it in there. Now this time what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a simple HTTP request to go to Google, just to test it out. Now make sure that your URL goes within those two quotation marks, and the next thing I need to do then is just to close off that that a tag. So let's close that. All of these tags need to enclose or nest other items, so the a tag needs to close the a tag. So I'll go back in there now and just finish that off. So it's corner bracket slash a corner bracket. I'll click save, and once that's saved I'll go out and reload my page again, and now you'll see that the hand pops up and I have a link out to Google. Okay, so that's working, and that's basically it. So now you can see that creating HTML doesn't need to be particularly scary once you get used to using the W3 Schools website just to scrape code out of that site. And you can think of the W3 Schools as a manual, you can think of it as your Bible, your library, whatever. You're never lost. If you just need to, anything that you need to do, you'll always be able to search for it in here. Then just take the code, scrape it out. That's copying and pasting, is called scraping, and then pop it into whatever you need to do, either in a post or in a widget.